And it's Ken Kraetzer for Cammvets Media. We cover cadets, veterans, midshipmen, military, and Iona University basketball. And we have a chance to hear from Iona graduate, class of 80, Iona great basketball player, Kevin Hamilton. Kevin, how are you this morning?
Very good, Ken. Good morning.
Good to see you. Now, Iona out at Albuquerque, New Mexico, lost to the Lobos 82-74 last night. A game they got behind as far as much as 17 points and came back to make it a 3-point game in the last couple of minutes and played in front of a big crowd, 14,000 plus. What was your impression of the game?
I thought Iona did some things well, but I also thought that they played very differently than they've played the last number of games. Certainly, their lineup changed where they had a few new players back. Certainly, Slazinski and I don't want to chop up his name, but the other young man who was out injured as well.
That is
Abai,
Dipu Ibine Ayu, AYO 6'7",
yeah,
freshman from Ghana.
yeah, Abai, and that certainly changed the way they normally played. Um, I thought Iona didn't play its best. However, they did enough to stay in a very good contest, competitive contest with a really good team. By the way, New Mexico showed that they have some outstanding players. Mr. House starting there, very very good player, and I think Coach Pitino had some remarks about how much he regarded his game. But all that said, it wasn't your traditional Iona basketball the way they've been playing this year. Some of the highlights of that was they actually played zone, and
Yeah, that Rick Pitino said he never wants to play zone, and there he was.
yeah, he was very concerned about being able to defend in a man-to-man set beyond John Louis, and that to me was a little surprising. I think they're the type of team, but the type of players that would have, stepped up to that challenge, and whether it had an impact on the game or not would have been, interesting to see. So maybe if he had it to do over again, he would have played a little bit more man to man and gave his players a chance to thrive. But nevertheless, it was a very good contest in a very big stage, and I don't think Iona hurt themselves by playing a very good team, that close when they didn't play their best.
Yeah, and they really struggled shooting the 3-point shot. 3 of 24 on the night. I think all three were second half, and shot 41%. New Mexico shot 56% on the day, and 29%, 5 of 17 on threes. Uh, New Mexico certainly had an aggressive defense, stopping Iona on the perimeter shots. What was it that really caused Iona to have such a poor shooting day?
Well, I think again, and I'm not gonna harp too much on this, but the flow of the game is different when you have outstanding players come back into the lineup. Jenkins and Walter Clayton are used to being overly aggressive from an offensive standpoint. If you look at Jenkins, he really took a back seat early, which is, unlike him. He was certainly doing the right thing, getting Nelly Jr. Josephs the ball because Nelly was dominant early in the contest. But like I said, as those guards go, that's how the team goes. And when both of those players are shoot second, I think it changes the flow of the contest for them. The other point is it took Iona a little while to get going with their pressure. When you're overly concerned with whether you can defend someone, you play a little cautious. And I think Jenkins' two fouls early was because he was, playing a little bit cautious. He should have, if you're going to get those fouls, you play all out and you get them. And who cares? You keep it moving. But, the scouting report said be a little careful with these players. And I think that's exactly what they did. And they put themselves in a little bit of a defensive and offensive slump, having to get used to playing against particularly the young man House, the way he played early, and the other young man Jenkins on their team came off the bench and scored 8 points in the first half. 2 threes and one long two. Really put Iona on their heels.
And one positive, certainly early, was Nelly Jr. Joseph. He was taking the ball to the rim, making his shots, 21 points on the day, 9 of 15 shooting. His game seems to be back at the level of where he's been in the past at kind of his highest performance. And he got in foul trouble again, and only played 27 minutes, but 21.6 rebounds.
Yeah, Nelly is really starting to play much more aggressively offensively. And I think you can see he's turning the corner with his confidence again inside the paint. So very happy to see that. But what's missing in the last 2 games, at least for Iona, is that second big having an impact. Osborne, Shima, and although Sunday gave them some good moments, they have to have an impact much more like they were having in the past 4 or 5 games for Nelly to be able to continue to thrive. Because as you saw, he got into foul trouble and had to go to the bench, which really forced Iona to have to play the game going uphill.
Now, interesting, Quinn Zelensky got back and was able to play 29 minutes in the game, 4-9 shooting, got 8 points. He had a flurry at the end of the first half. In fact, there's some reported trash talk going back and forth with one of the other New Mexico players towards the end of the first half. Coach Pitino afterwards said he's got to get back into game shape after missing the better part of a month. And how do you see his game progressing?
Well, I thought it was very positive what he did yesterday. And the toughness and the trash talking, believe it or not, is something Iona sorely missed. They were a finesse team before he came back. And once he gets back into shape, they can be finesse, but with some toughness. And they're going to need it because as they get into, after their road trip out in Hawaii and they get into MAC play, they're going to have that guy who's willing to, step up and be the tough guy. And it was good to see Quinn, step in and do that. He certainly looked rusty early, but as you said, once he got his legs underneath him, he started hitting some shots, rebounding. And the putback dunk was a sign that although he was out injured for quite a while, he's willing to lay it all on the line. And I thought that was a good sign.
Yeah, 12 rebounds on the day for Quinn Zelensky. And another positive coming off the bench was Cruz Davis, who had a good game against Princeton. And he came out, and I think he got 6 of his 8 points right in a flurry in the second half that got Iona back in the game. And so he's some instant offense off the bench, it looks like.
Well, you know what that young man can do. He's known to be a scorer. He likes to score. The only thing that keeps him off the floor a little bit is freshman mistakes on defense, but he's getting better at that as well. So really bright spot for Iona. Now you take all that and you throw it into the pot and you stir the soup. What Coach Pitino is going to have to figure out is, what ingredients does he use at what time? And that's going to be the challenge. Now he has the deep bench that he wanted. And it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. You take a guy like Parker Weiss, who was giving Iona some good minutes, coming off the bench, doing some good things, playing very good defense. He hardly saw the floor. And those types of decisions are going to be decisions that I think, really determine the makeup of the Iona team as it goes forward. So look for that to be, a big part of them going forward. What players do you play at what time, and how does that affect, the flow of the game that they had going so well?
Well, certainly with Shima, who's been playing with four, while Quinn Zelensky has been out. It's Zelensky comes back to take most of that time. Does he go back to backing up Nelly Jr. Joseph at the five center position, or does how do they work that four position? What do you see happening there?
If we could read Coach Pitino's mind, we would both be doing something different. But I'll tell you, it's a good problem to have, especially that Shima has showed what he's capable of doing against very high level. I just think he's going to have to really be careful not to downgrade any player that's been giving him good minutes. I think it's important to keep Shima out there. Certainly when Zelensky gets back at full steam, he's the kind of guy you're going to want on the floor. So I would expect that the senior's going to end up, being on the floor a little bit more than Shima, but hopefully it'll end up a game time scenario based on a scouting report, who and what players have the type of impact they need.
Okay, and now Iona's going to be heading out west to Hawaii for Christmas week, and some very good teams in the tournament. They're going to start off with SMU on Thursday. I've got it as a 3 o'clock Thursday afternoon start. So they're going to be playing from morning till night out in Hawaii. And the winner of that game would play Utah State versus Seattle on Friday. They get Christmas Eve off. And some of the other teams, you got Washington State, George Washington, Pepperdine host Hawaii in the mix. So you got those 8 teams, and Utah State in the RPI is number 2, 9-0 on the season, and Iona could very, very likely be playing Utah State on Friday. What do you think of the tournament, Kevin?
I think it's a good tournament. A couple of good teams. I wouldn't say the competition is over the top, to be honest with you. SMU is a good, physical, aggressive team with good guards. But if I'm Iona, I wouldn't worry about who I'm going to end up playing on Friday or Saturday. They better go out and put it together and play against a good SMU team first, which I'm certain, the coaching staff is going to be focused on. Every team in the field is beatable for Iona. Iona should be, one of the favorites to come through that event. But hey, you got to go play the games. And many teams out there are going to be really anxious and looking forward to playing Iona team led by Coach Rick Pitino. So, no matter what the competition is, don't think every team won't have their Super Bowl when they face Iona.
Yeah, it certainly has been that way, and I actually went out to, it was called the Rainbow Classic then when I was a student at Providence back in the late 1970s. Dave Gavitt was coaching the team, and they played an arena called the Blaisdell Center. And it was quite an adventure to be able to go out there and see some great basketball. Providence played North Carolina, lost to the Tar Heels, Dean Smith's team in the finals. And then the return game was North Carolina had to come and play at Providence the next year. And Providence beat them in a famous game after a blizzard.
Right.
That's another point was noted in the commentary is this was a home and home with New Mexico. They're coming to New York next year to play Iona, as Coach Pitino said around the holidays, another chance for him to see it, maybe have his grandchildren come in with Richard.
Yeah, if it's at the Heinz Center, It'll be a very, very, very exciting, loud, jam-packed, TV cameras everywhere kind of game. I'm not sure if that's where they're playing the game. Maybe they'll play it at the Garden because it will draw as well. Um, but no matter where they play it, it certainly will be good for Iona because that by the end of this year, New Mexico will be one of those teams talked about in the national content. And to have that type of return game, sun or no sun, is a good thing for the Iona team.
Yeah, yeah, and certainly I think Richard Pitino sort of had to deal with all of the questions from media and others about having playing his dad there. But for him, he said it was business as usual. They needed a win. They wanted to, they had a big crowd there. They said it was the biggest crowd at the pit since 2016, over 14,500 people at it. Must have been very noisy and exciting, energized the fan base there. So that was an important win for New Mexico.
Yeah, it was very important, and the crowd was so good. After the game, Richard Pitino took the mic and thanked them for coming. So that's a great thing. Now, if only he would have his father as the opponent every game, they'll get 14,000. But nevertheless, it was a very good win for him and his program. And he's a good guy and a good coach. He'll do well out there. But I look forward to seeing them come back to New York and have to play in a different type of environment next year.
Yeah, that'll be something to look forward to. Another kind of positive element of the Rick Pitino era at Iona that he's able to draw these nationally prominent teams to come in and play in New Rochelle with St. Louis last week, and perhaps New Mexico next year. It's a special element that Rick Pitino brings to basketball at Iona, and it's such an exciting time to be following Iona basketball.
Yeah, it's really awesome. I mean, if you compare it to when I played back for Coach Valvano back in the late '70s, early '80s, those types of games, no one wanted to play us, so we had to play all of our big games on the road. Which at some point we didn't care because we were good enough to beat everybody. But most teams would not come play us, either in the Garden or certainly on our campus back in the old facility. So it's a real big plus to have Coach Pitino's power to draw those types of games here back into New Rochelle.
I got to ask you because I think my first Iona game was in Thanksgiving of 1978. I went with a friend, my friend Scott McLeod, good friend, high school friend. We went to the game there, and then it was the Mulcahy Center. Now the Hines Center it was brand new then. What was the facility before that?
I think it was Mount St. Michael High School.
Really? You had to go down to the Bronx to play? Wow.
I know they played some high school. I'm not sure if it was Salesian High School or Mount, but it was some high school in the area. And interestingly enough, the Mulcahy Center was new, but it wasn't a great place to play. So, didn't have a wood floor.
I
But
remember that. Yeah.
eventually we got a wood floor because we were good enough, and it made sense to make sure that we had at least the best floor we could have. But all that said, if you remember, all of our games were standing room only after my freshman year. After we beat St. John's in Mulcahy, people figured it out, and when Manhattan and Fordham and St. Peter's and those types of schools that were very good back in those days came to Mulcahy, you had to get there early and stand on the side if you didn't.
Well, it was an exciting time when Jim Valbano and your team, Jeff Brulin and Glenn Vickers and your teammates all put Iona basketball on the map, and it's been an amazing ride ever since. I mean, last 40 years of Iona basketball, I tell people all they do is win. From the Tim Cluse era, from Tim Welch, from Jeff Rulin, he was the head coach. There's a lot of very successful seasons and really helped the college to grow now a university. Well, Kevin, a final thought for us today?
No, I'm excited for Iona. Much success for them out in Hawaii. Wish I was out there with them for a lot of reasons besides basketball, but very happy for them and hope that they can use this trip to figure out the way they're going to play the chess pieces when they return back for MAC conference play, and want all the guys to, come back healthy, and look forward to following them along the way.
Absolutely. And that New Year's Day game against St. Peter's will be something to look forward to. But Kevin Hamilton, happy holidays to you. And we will catch up with you later in the week and see how Iona does against SMU out in the Diamond Head Classic, sponsored by Hawaiian Airlines. Should be a great opportunity. Kevin, good to see you. Thanks for your time today.
Happy holidays, Ken, and to everyone who watches this. Take care.
Absolutely. It's Ken Kraetzer for Cammvets Media. We cover cadets, midshipmen, veterans, military, and Iona basketball. Thanks for watching and happy holidays.